Sometimes I'm afraid that people will accuse me of oversharing as a form of attention seeking. This accusation is 100% correct. I am nothing without external validation. Sit down and I will tell you some things I'm not supposed to tell you because I am a classy fucking lady, you shits! I've been in a porn video where I was very specifically instructed to say that pavlova cake does look delicious. But I'd rather you eat this! When I was a toddler, I used to sneak out behind the chicken coop and then I'd shit all over the ground so that our dog could eat it.
The first time I tried to ever meet an internet person in real life, I was 15 years old. It was really awkward and uncomfortable, and afterwards he kept sending me rape threats through instant messenger. For some reason I was too embarrassed to tell anyone about the messages, even though I was afraid, and I told myself not to take them too seriously because he just kept sending them and nothing ever happened. But also I felt ashamed about them. Like if I told anyone, I might somehow get in trouble.
Speech! 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 Oh, well, if you insist. I would like to challenge the idea that oversharing is inherently negative. Human beings are such deeply social animals. We need to feel connected to one another. When we tell ourselves that there's parts of us that we should keep hidden away from one another, I think we cultivate a deep dread and anxiety within ourselves. We start to worry, what if I accidentally reveal these things about myself? When we fear accidentally revealing our unlovable self, we become dysfunctional. We put up walls. We get defensive. We become angry or fearful. We either hide or run away or attack. I guess I question the idea that oversharing is inherently negative. The line between what is and isn't appropriate to say is often so arbitrary that we're always worried about saying the wrong thing in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think that really inhibits actual relating between us. It clogs us up. If I'm worried that what I'm saying to you right now isn't being said in the right way, or if I'm telling you too much, I'm so consumed with that anxiety that I can't actually communicate properly. I just strongly reject the idea that there are things we simply shouldn't talk about. What is and isn't appropriate is so dependent on the arbitrary and fluctuating social rules of any given time or place. I truly believe that when we decide certain things about ourselves are too shameful to speak of, we cultivate a deep sense of isolation and disconnection. And I'm with researcher Brené Brown on this one. Shame is lethal. One time, for an exhibition, I glued a bunch of my boyfriend's pubes to a sculpture of a frog that I made. Also, I didn't learn to orgasm until I was 22 years old. But I don't know why I'm bringing that up now, because it's unrelated to the previous bit of information I just told you. Sometimes I can make my nipples lactate by just sort of squeezing a little bit. It's okay though, because the doctor says it's okay. And also, we checked and I don't have cancer, so everything's fine, and it's actually kind of cool, and also I tasted it.
I still own the first love letter I was ever sent. He was 14, I was 15, and he was the first person I ever fell in love with, and the first person to ever break my heart. I want people to not feel afraid to speak their truth. I want people to feel empowered to speak honestly and openly about their lived experience, and for other people to look at that and say, I understand that is your subjective experience. Though it might not resonate with me, or it might even seem wrong, I'm going to sit with my discomfort instead of imposing it upon you and hurting you with that.
I believe that the personal is political. I believe that when we talk about the things we are afraid of, turned on by, the things we deeply, secretly long for, we tell a bigger picture about our shared humanity, and that gives us so much insight into one another, so much more connectedness, so much more fucking love. And through this, we can better learn the compassion and empathy that is so dramatically needed for us to all learn to better share this ridiculously beautiful, ridiculously fragile, unlikely planet that we actually all have to share. Maybe I'm sounding a tad idealistic here, but I actually really believe this. I believe that positive change only happens in the daylight, and constructive conversations only happen when we put down our defenses and allow ourselves to speak openly, to be receptive to other people's stories and other people's perspectives. I once tried working in a brothel for a night. The work wasn't really suited to my temperament, but the women were incredibly supportive, and the clients were really grateful for the connected experience I tried to offer them. So that made me feel actually really good about myself. Yeah, I just don't regret the experience at all. In fact, I'm really glad I had it. I once shat my pants on a tram! And when it happened, I remember whispering to myself, oh, uh-oh.
Once every couple of weeks, I will wake up in the middle of the night in pain. I will think about my future and it'll just seem so bleak, so uncertain, so hopeless. I'll be so convinced that there's nothing ahead of me except for more pain and greater disability. And I'll just cry because there's nothing I can do. But it's not cathartic crying, it's just because there's nothing else I can do. And I just have to wait until morning.
Disconnection is devastating to us. The isolation we feel when we think that nobody could love us for our gross, weird, messy selves. It fucks us up. It's fucking lethal. When we think we're ugly, we become ugly. We are such flawed, strange, complicated animals. When people feel ashamed for things they really shouldn't be, I just feel so fucking sad. It makes my goddamn heart ache to think of how many people feel so sad, alone, and unlovable for things they don't have to feel ashamed of. So you like being toe-fucked in the air by a woman dressed as your mother. Who the fuck is that hurting? Nobody! That's not hurting anybody! If she likes it and you like it, who the fuck cares? Maybe don't tell your mum about it. She doesn't need to know about your weird fetish. My moral guidelines, at their base, are pretty fucking straightforward. Don't hurt anyone. And if you do, because sometimes you will by accident, or even deliberately, because we're all assholes sometimes, apologize. Mean it. Do everything you fucking can to make it better. And forgive yourself. Because we all fuck up. But, you know, if the things about you that you feel shame for don't hurt a single person, then who cares? Why are you ashamed of those things? You don't have to be. It's insanely liberating to realize the only person I hurt with this is myself if I continue to feel shame for it. On the internet, there is a video where I run naked into a shower and just kind of pour canned spaghetti all over myself while yelling, "Spaghetti shower! Spaghetti shower!" And I really hope that somebody has masturbated over it. I really hope that everyone has masturbated over it. I know what every single one of my body fluids tastes like. Every single one!
The first time in my life that I felt suicidal, I was 13 years old. The most recent time, was just after my birthday last year, just after I turned 32 years old. Every single time I've felt suicidal, there's been a common theme, and that is a deep sense of heavy hopelessness, worthlessness, and an absolute conviction that I am trapped in my current situation and that things are not going to get better. In fact, they are only going to worsen. The noose is only going to get tighter over time, which I think is just the kind of mindset you get into over a lifetime of having chronic health conditions that just dictate the trajectory of your entire life. When I was a little girl, and for most of my teenage years, I was chronically ill. I remember that for a couple of years, when my parents had guests over, I would hide away in my bedroom. I did this because I was ashamed of myself. I was afraid that people would tell me I was faking being sick, or that they might look at me with that pity in their eyes, the pity of someone looking at someone else and thinking, "You poor, pathetic, lost soul, you will always depend on other people for the rest of your life and never amount to anything." As an adult, I have fresh new chronic health issues. Woo! They have forced me to confront a deep and vulnerable part of myself that is so incredibly afraid of being unworthy. I am finally realizing that my health issues are not a personal failure, but simply a fact of my life. This acceptance is liberating, and as I shine daylight into the darkness and learn to love myself for all that I am, the sense of relief is immense and tangible. It has come from talking, saying the things that I am afraid to say, and then learning that I am not alone. For the longest time, I have been fascinated by shame. I have challenged myself to push past it, to see what happens when I fart in the face of social acceptability. I am lucky to live a life of relative privilege, so the consequences have been relatively minor. In another place and another time, I might be stoned to death for just being me. But in my utopia, we get to be who we are, and that includes our weirdest, ugliest, most awkward selves. As long as we strive to respect one another, not to hurt one another, imagine a world where we could let ourselves be seen, truly seen, and still be accepted, still be loved. One of the times in my life when I felt so happy and free, I was camping in the Australian outback with a lover. I was buck naked and leaning against a picnic table, and he was brutally fucking my ass. Flies were crawling all over my sweaty face, and it was filthy, hot, and fucking perfect. I was so fucking happy. Yeah, so one of the times in my life when I felt my most happy and my most free was when I was camping as a little kid. There were all these other kids down on the beach. We all got together and collected all these dead jellyfish because there were just hundreds of dead jellyfish on the beach. I think they had been fucking or something and then died. Anyway, we made a giant jellyfish sandcastle. It was so good. Fuck, I loved that jelly castle. One of the times in my life when I felt most happy and most free was when I learned to truly believe that my partner, Wes, is genuinely happy about the life we are building together and that he doesn't see me as a burden. Actually, I think that is the main goal of my art and my life, to question shame and live as freely as I possibly can. Because shame is disconnecting, shame is disempowering, shame is crippling, and perhaps worst of all, shame is
fucking boring. Fuck shame. Shame is boring.
Fuck shame. Shame is boring.
Fuck shame. Shame is boring.
Fuck shame. Shame is boring.